came to America, we were living in the east by the Nile River, living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
Either call ya, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad said 6 words to us, and these were the 6 most powerful words that he spoke. He said, accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own. The Caucasians who brought our fathers into slavery desired to take us away from our own people, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, our own language. So we have grown up in America away from our own mind, away from our own selves, and so we have been actually indoctrinated with an alien mentality.
10,000 fearless men, because we're going to have to challenge the things that are destroying our community. So this ain't no punk time. This ain't no temple time, mosque time, or church time. All the singing and shouting and preaching is over. Get in them streets now. Block by block. We're going to have to clean it up. The airwaves is not enough. The television screen is not enough. You got to put boots on the ground who are trained and are willing to make the sacrifice of life itself to see our community made a decent place to live.
Attention. Drill.
Soldiering is a part of the Nation of Islam, and it readies all of us to obey the commands of God. Now some will ask, well, why military drill? Because this is what produces the camaraderie.
Facebook and Instagram thought that they could ban the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
But in reality, they can't, because he already lives in us and millions of others.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Name of Allah, Master Farad Muhammad, the one true and living God to whom praise is due forever. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger. Peace, family, and welcome back to another great episode of WHID-FM. WHID-FM is your personal platform for those of us striving to follow the life-giving and life-saving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as given to us by his premier pupil, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gathered right here in this virtual meeting place to answer that most critical question of what has Islam done for me. It is Sunday, July 14th, and at this time we're going to turn it over to our technical assistant who will be stepping in for Sister Janine Muhammad, Brother Wesley. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum, family. This evening, we have a beautiful couple here that will be sharing on what has Islam done for me. I want to pull up their bios here before we bring them on. Bear with me one moment. Here we go. All right, we have Brother Trevore Muhammad. Grew up in the Chicago, son of Pastor T.L. Barrett, joined the nation at 15 years old, a student minister in the nation, and owner of Supreme Shipping and Supreme Landscape. We also have Sister Ladesha Muhammad, grew up in Chicago. Father became registered in the nation in the 80s. She became a registered Muslim in 2001, has 24 years in law enforcement, and a black belt under Student Assistant Supreme Captain, also known as Grand Master Abdul Aziz Muhammad. Welcome, family.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. We appreciate you all taking your time out today to be able to join us and be able to expound on your journey on what Islam has done for you all. And we want to start off with this first question that I do have. We'll go directly to Brother Trevore. Having two businesses, being a student minister, a husband, a head of household, how are you able to balance it all, and what encouragement would you give a soon-to-be or aspiring husband and family man about maintaining balance in his priorities?
I guess the first thing, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there's no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, the great Mahdi, to whom praise is due forever. We thank him for his exalted Christ, living Messiah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thank him and them both for leaving in our midst their divine reminder, warner, guide, that Messiah, messenger, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know, that question is loaded and kind of deserves to be unpacked. You know, we can take it the long way and go into the study guides on the struggle for balance. But I guess the quick answer would be by just striving, you know, to follow what we've been given. You know, everything that we've been given, when we think about it, it covers everything. So we don't have to look at this philosopher or that philosopher. Some of us read this person or study this, the new trend. But when it all boils down to it, it just goes back to our basics, you know? And the advice I would give is for all of us to strive to be what he called us into. He called us into the nation of Islam. And Islam, the main meaning of that word is making peace through our submission. So if I want a healthy body, then I know I have to submit to the dietary law of how to eat to live. You know, if I want a proper relationship with my wife, then I know I have to do what the minister said and make the primary relationship, make it primary. And if that is successful, which is our relationship with Allah, then the success in the other relationships flows from that. But specifically, I know I'm taking a long time, I'm sorry, but specifically to get to that answer, the advice would be to be practical. I know in my younger Muslim life, I wasn't very practical. I thought, man, as soon as I strike out to do for self, I should be rich. Right? It shouldn't take that long. But I mean, if you look at the nature of Allah's creation, things take time. And may Allah forgive me if I misquote his Messiah and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but I heard him say, and I'm not quoting it perfectly, that real greatness takes time. So I would say you have to be patient with yourself, but then balance that with us not getting lazy. I mean, we have to actually work. And then when we begin to see the fruits of our labor, I heard a businessman say how success breeds success. And I would say that that's true, because as you start seeing the results, then it strengthens you and it motivates you to do more. So I would say putting things in their proper place, God, our families, our nation, and our businesses. And that's how I would answer that, brother.
All praise is due to Allah. And on the other side of that, Sister Ladesha, how do you navigate supporting your husband with his many responsibilities that he has, and what encouragement or advice would you give a fellow sister who is soon to be in that position or aspiring to be a wife as well?
Can you repeat the question? Because I want to get clarity. Aspiring to be a wife in general?
Yes, ma'am.
A minister or a business owner?
Well, we can unpack it that way as well. But initially, the question was in reference to being a wife and supporting her husband, whether soon to be or aspiring to be a wife to support a husband with the responsibilities that he has as well.
Well, first of all, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ, and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Messiah in our midst. I would just say that in preparing to be a wife, a sister should first prepare herself, meaning that she should be a studying woman, a praying woman, a fasting woman. And that way your focus should not necessarily be on a husband, but the focus should be that, and in delving in yourself in the mission. And you'll find yourself, your husband may be right there in the mission with you. If we just focus on the work, I believe Allah will take care of the rest. And I would say be patient.
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you for those responses. One other question before I turn it over to Brother West. Both of you all may can answer this as well. But have you actually been in the presence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? And if so, would you mind describing that experience and how it felt?
You want to go?
I'll go first.
Yeah, she can go first. I'll go.
You probably know what I'm getting ready to say. I'm in the Vanguard class, or I was in the Vanguard class, still active in it. And I remember we were at Mosque Mariam in Chicago, and somehow I got left on the door, and they were like, just stay right here, secure this door. And I remember he came in and sat down, and my heart was just pounding, like, oh my goodness. And I just remember he just turned and looked at me, and he said, I know who you are. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, what is he getting ready to say to me, right? So he just said to me, he said, you're a killer. And when I heard those words, I kind of got a bit startled, and I was just very nervous. But all I could think about was, I wonder what he means by that. I don't see myself that way. But I remember responding, I pray to Allah, Brother Minister, that is the case. So that was my experience of being just him and myself in the room.
Yes, ma'am. And Brother Trevore?
When I think about it, I thank Allah for the undeserved privilege, honor, and pleasure to be in his company on several occasions in a classroom setting where he taught a group of maybe 15 or so of his student ministers for, it was every Tuesday for weeks at a time. I was blessed several times to dine at the National House, and blessed several times to have him say words to me personally, like in his company, not that we were alone, but other people were around, but in his company. So I'll just give you two. One is probably the earliest I can remember being in his physical presence. I must have been a teenager and I wasn't yet registered. And I don't know how I found myself in the mosque, but I was in the mosque in the gymnasium, and he was teaching very hard. And I remember, I don't know why I did this. I was a teenager, but I remember standing up and pointing at him. Like, yeah, man, he talking. Oh, yeah. But I was pointing. And his security that was on him at the time was, looking at me naturally like, who is this? And watching and getting closer like, man, we got to watch this brother. He might be a threat. And I remember the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stopping them. And I'm not going to quote him perfect, but he said, he's with me. Like, leave him alone, brother's with me. And I thank Allah that even though I fell in and out throughout the years, I've been with him and I've been loving him since I was a child. And the other one I'll briefly bring up is once I was at his blessed privilege and honored to be at the dinner table of his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, at the National Home. And I thought I was giving him a compliment. I won't go into what it was. It was something with the Quran or something that, this was maybe, it had to be over 20, 25 years ago. But I remember his response. And may Allah forgive me if I don't quote him perfectly, because I don't want to make a mistake. But I remember the gist of it was he looked up and he said that I am nothing but a grain of sand among all of the grains of sand on the beach. And I thought about that. I was like, wow, as great of a man as he is and how we all look up to him and honor and respect him, for him to have that level of humility just really impressed on my soul and my heart and mind at a young age that it's not really about us as individuals. Our value to Allah, the great Mahdi, and his work is in us taking part of that work. And we really, so that scripture, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Well, without Christ, if we can do all things with him, without him, we really can't do too much of nothing. And I think that realization has helped to propel me in areas of my personal life, my spiritual walk, my business life. I just don't believe that I can't have if I'm helping the man who is the voice of God in our midst today. Thank you for your question.
All praise is due to Allah. We appreciate those responses. Thank you both for those responses there. I would like to now turn our program over to Brother West. He has a few questions for you, and then inshallah, we'll be back and I have a few other ones for you. Brother West?
Yes, sir. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Praise be to Allah. It's great to have you both on. So, thanks. Brother Trevor, I'm curious to know how you became a producer at VH1. Can you tell us more about your experience there, and if you have any notable experiences or memories?
I actually forgot that was on my Facebook. I probably would take that down because honestly, that was during a time when I wasn't active, I guess you would say. No, I wasn't. I could say that. But nonetheless, it opens up a different train of thought because it makes me to remember and recall that even, and this is really for me, this is my personal journey, that even when I wasn't striving, as we say, to be right in that sense of the word, like trying to live up to all of what we have in front of us, and I was out in the world, the God still looked out for me. So it's really humbling that even when I was out, I was in. I mean, I was in terms of I didn't go hungry. I didn't. It's a scripture that, pardon me, that's the preacher in me. It's a scripture that talks about, I think it's David, who said, I was young and now I'm old. And it's two things I've never seen. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. And so I thank Allah for that time in my life that even when I wasn't doing what I know I should have been doing, he's still, man, he's so merciful. He's the most merciful of those who show mercy. But to give you the short answer, I got that job. It was a video. I was on VH1 for a TV show, but it's something they call field story producer. And my job was to make scenes funnier. And so I got that job because I was in the supermarket cracking jokes with some people who were in the supermarket, and somebody overheard it and said, hey, man, we think you would be good for this. Why don't you come down and interview? And that's how that went. So
that's how he got me, because he's funny.
Yes, ma'am. We'll get to that later. I did want to ask how you two met. But yes, sir. So, Sister Ladesha, I wanted to know if you can share a few notable experiences you've had during a 24-year career in law enforcement.
I'm sorry, repeat the question in regards to
law enforcement. I wanted to know if you had any experiences or memories you had from working in law enforcement.
No, not necessarily. It's just a job. I don't look at it that way in relation to the nation. I will say this, that being in law enforcement for 24 years, being in the nation has made me a better officer, if you will, in regard to security. The information that I learned on my job, the training, it can't even compete with the training that we have received in the Vanguard class, the MGT class, and just the Nation of Islam itself. I hope that answers your questions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, Brother Trevore, I wanted to know what inspired you to become the owner of your companies, Supreme Landscaping and Supreme Shipping.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad of how to do for self. Even if you look at the name that I chose, Supreme. And I would say years ago, a sister, her name was Sister Sandra, a great fisherwoman here in Chicago, put a VHS tape in my hand called Project Exodus. And the minister is sitting at his desk and he's going into, he even broke down what cars that you can drive a Ford, you can drive a Chevy, and I'm putting it in my words. He said, but that's not what the master wanted you to drive. He wanted you to drive the luxury car. And then what really struck me is when he said that from the depth of my heart, I will not rest until all of you live in a home like this one. And he was sitting in the palace. So in that video, he's giving us the script to say when we're establishing our customer base through the final call. He's telling us how to sell the paper and then bring other products after we establish the base with the final call newspaper. So that did something to me, and it touched me, and it inspired me to do it the way he said do it, to go door to door with the paper. And from doing that, it built, I would say, the tolerance level for rejection and uncomfortability, whatever little things that jump up in us, the little fears. They're going to say no, or I'm not going to, I'm knocking on a stranger's door, whatever trepidation. Something is built in the character of the individual by facing and overcoming that. So I would give all of the praise, the credit honor, the glory to Allah and his two great witnesses, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sister Ladesha, I believe your father joined the Nation of Islam around the Million Man March or during the 80s, I believe. And Brother Trevore, I think your parents have been in the nation for a while as well. So I wanted to know if you can share what influence your parents had on your decision to become registered members of the Nation of Islam.
Well, I'll go first. My parents are not registered members. My dad is a pastor here in Chicago. My mother's
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
first lady, and they're long time. My dad is longtime friend and supporter of the minister of the Nation of Islam. Minister has spoken on multiple occasions at his church. Yeah. I think it's, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to make a slight detour. So my father at that time, in my eyes, didn't necessarily represent what I may have envisioned someone in the Nation of Islam. During that time of my life, I was very, very heavy into church. So I would have to say, definitely though, the influence was my father every single day. And I'm about to tell my age, but every single day when I came home from school, he was playing a tape of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We're talking every single day. And he would take the cassette tape, rewind it. If he didn't get it or hear it correctly. So that is a definite memory that when I tell you every single day, I am not exaggerating. Every single day he had a cassette of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in that tape cassette. But what led to that is that I remember prior to law enforcement, I had a job as a postal worker. And there was a brother there who at that time, I thought he was a Christian just like me. And then I remember the phone ringing and it came over the intercom. And they said, David Muhammad, you have a call on line 1. And I was wondering who that was. And I turned and looked and I saw the gentleman that I had communication with on a daily basis, as far as, spiritual conversations. He starts walking to the phone. And he was a very well mannered person. He knew the scriptures. And so I see him on the phone. And then when he gets off the phone, I decide to walk up to him and I said, hi, David. I saw that they said David Muhammad has a call on line 1. And I'm like, is that you? And he's like, yes, very polite. And I said, well, isn't Muhammad a Muslim name? He's like, yes. And so I say, well, but you're a Christian just like me. He says, oh, no. So that was the beginning of my journey. I saw an opposite side of what I thought a Muslim was supposed to be like. And so, but again, in regards to my dad, he was relentless with listening to the minister.
Yes, ma'am. I guess over the years it could have started to marinate and build a foundation. Yes, ma'am. So next, I was curious on what it's like to be members of Muhammad Mosque number 2 in Chicago. That's basically the national headquarters of, well, not basically, that is the national headquarters of our nation. So can you all share the feeling of brotherhood among the FOI and the feeling of sisterhood among the MGT?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Well, 2 words, very busy. I would say that the sisterhood is like no other sisterhood I have ever had in my entire life. I was just actually sharing with my husband today. I went to visit my sister and I just felt like, I told him, I was like, oh, my sister feels like a stranger to me, although we grew up in the same household. We just seem like, and the type of sisterhood in the nation is that the sisters, whatever you need, however anyone can help, whether it's charity, um, whether it's just conversation, upliftment, um, prayer together, studying together, and nothing can just compare to it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And you, brother Trevor?
I would say that, it's nothing like the FOI. And I would have to honestly say I was scrolling in my head and thinking about, outside of my wife, who do I even talk to just on a regular basis. And when I think about it, it's FOI of my friends. I don't really have or as they say, a circle of friends that we go out and hang out or go to the movies. No, I talk to the FOI, and those are my friends. And then I would say beyond that, I think, and I know that it's a privilege and honor and a pleasure to serve as a student minister, especially at headquarters under Student Minister Ishmael Muhammad, the National Assistant Minister to Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because every week when we sit with him, and what many may not know is that he is very hands-on when it comes to the presentation on Sunday. He has to approve remarks. He has to go over them sometimes and critique or add or take away. But he's very meticulous, and it's very it's an extremely challenging, I would say, position to be in that classroom, but very rewarding. And I would say, in my humble opinion, it's distant second, but it's second to being in a classroom and receiving instructions from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. That sounds like a great experience. And you all are newlyweds, correct? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
March 4th of last year, so a year and a few months.
Praise be to Allah. That's wonderful. So I'm curious to know how you two met and what inspired you both to pursue courtship.
So a few years ago, I saw Sister at one of our restaurants, and I felt something that I hadn't felt before, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't equate it to feelings of attraction in that sense of the word, but it was just some type of connection, but I didn't know what. And the timing wasn't right. So for the next year and a half, maybe, whenever I saw her, she didn't know anything about it. But whenever I saw her, whether it was Facebook or just walking past, I was thinking to myself, what is this? What is this connection? And so then on our first night of us courting and getting to know each other, I still was wondering what it was. I spoke on the phone with her maybe once before that night, and I felt the connection, but didn't know. And it was during COVID, so she had a mask on. And when she came to the place to meet me, we touched elbows, and she gave me the greetings. And she touched her elbow to mine, and when she did that, I immediately knew that she was my wife. And then a few days later, it was confirmed for her as well.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that if I could.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. So if we all think about it, we all may have had experiences in our life that no one could tell you that Allah said this, or, you say, oh, people say God spoke to me, and no one could tell you anything different. I do remember him saying to me that I was his wife. And at that time, I
didn't say it that night, though. I don't want to creep her out, so I waited a couple days.
But when he said that, I just kind of went, oh, yeah. Oh, I've heard this before. But I don't know if it was 2 days later, after prayer, I just decided, oh, let me open up the Quran. And when I opened it up,
Excuse me.
It is as if the words lifted up on the page. I don't know how to explain it again. And I knew that he was my husband. And I think I even shed tears because it was just a thing of, no, why? What do you know? It can't be him. But
It can't be me. That sounds pretty bad.
But it wasn't like that. It was just, sometimes as women, we may not think that we deserve certain things in life. And it's not that I didn't think that I didn't deserve a husband. I just didn't think that it would be Brother Trevore. Because I've seen Brother Trevore at a distance for years. And, when you see someone speaking, I'm just
That's
like,
a good say. Good say.
No. But it's just, that's Brother Trevore up there speaking. And I just remember when I would hear him, he just sounded like thunder to me.
Praise be to Allah.
And I used to go, man, in particular, because at that time I was back and forth, church, mosque. And so him being the son of a pastor, I used to just sit there and go, how does he do this? I just couldn't understand it. And I felt like that was my struggle. And so I felt a connection with him from that sense. Like, man, we have this same struggle, but he seems to make it look so easy. So again, I just felt the connection from that standpoint.
Yes, man, that sounds wonderful. And I heard you say that the verse that you read almost brought you to tears. Do you remember what verse that was?
Not specifically, but it opened up immediately to the prophet's marriage to, I believe, Zainab. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept reading it, and it just confirmed it.
Yes, man. Praise be to Allah. And with that, we'll go back to you, Brother Wesley.
Yes, sir. Just sitting back enjoying the conversation. Praise be to Allah. It makes my heart smile to hear these type of stories about courtship and being able to find your life partner. So praise be to Allah in your all's journey. But before we go forward, Brother Trevore, I just wanted to check in with you, make sure you were okay. We didn't want to overtax you as well. Well. So just let us know if you do need to take a break or step away.
No, I'm fine. I thought something was coming down from yesterday. I got a little sniffles, but I'll be okay for a little while. Thank you.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. So the next question that I had for you, Brother Trevore, you spoke towards being in the student ministry. So I just wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit further as well. So what would you say are 2 or 3 key qualities to have being a student minister? And as well, how has being a student minister helped you evolve as a person as well and as a Muslim?
I would answer the first question is, what are the qualities?
Yes, sir. Like 2 or 3 key qualities that would be needed to be in the student ministry.
I would say that from a scriptural standpoint, if we look at the men that God chose, not that us as student ministers are not putting us on the level of the prophet law, but if we look at the men of God in the scriptures, I believe the minister said in his study guide, the first emotion they experienced was fear. And I believe that speaks to their humility, that they didn't feel adequate. Moses even said it. Well, I can't, he put up excuses. I can't talk that good. I think it was Jonah who ran, So I think that is probably, in my humble opinion, one of the most necessary and essential qualities is humility. To know that it's not about me. It's not about lifting me or becoming famous or known or respected or getting applause. Because the book says, lift the Savior up. And if I be lifted from the earth, I will draw all men unto me. That's the Savior talking, God talking. So I think if you are a person that's in it for the wrong reason or allow laws to get to our head or we start to think that it's us, then it takes away, I think I heard Ishmael even say earlier, it takes the power away and the effectiveness away because it's like short circuiting the spirit of God that has to come through a certain kind of instrument, you know. So when you see the pictures of Jesus, as the minister so eloquently explained it, his heart is open. He don't have no guile. He don't have any ill motives. He's not motivated by filthy lucre or money. You know, he's a pure vessel that the pure, unadulterated Spirit of God could absolutely come across him. So the Jesus said to his disciples who wanted to see the Father, have I been among you this long and you haven't seen him? Man, how do you get so pure, so righteous, so rightly motivated that the living God actually dwells in you? So he had to deny himself. And that's what Jesus said. You want to be my disciple? First, you got to deny yourself. So that's humility from my humble vantage point. Then pick up your cross. So what's the second one then? You pick up, if I got a cross, then that, to me, that says strength and durability. You persistent. If you look at that journey that they showed in the movie on the way to the cross, that wasn't an easy journey. Just to get to where you being crucified takes some kind of tenacity. And then come follow me. Damn. So then you looking at discipline, because I'm a disciple now. Well, we are. Discipline in our lives according to a body of knowledge that he brought. And I would say, I should have said, started with, to me, what would be the most important, and that's the love. That we love God with, and I think Ishmael mentioned this in his remarks today, those two great commandments, that we love God with all our heart, mind, soul, strength, and then love our neighbor as ourselves. That's how I would answer that quickly. I hope that was fast enough.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things that I love about my husband. I think I told him that he's so very genuine.
Praise be to him.
And I felt like it's easy to love genuineness. It's just, he's very genuine.
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you so much. And you definitely know how to worry about time. Take your time, brothers. There's no rush at all. So you're good. Praise be to Allah. I would like to ask you, Sister Ladesha, as well. Really, it's a twofold question, but I'll start with this. Many may be aware of what the MGT is. They may not know, but they may have heard that. But could you speak to the difference between the Vanguard class and the MGT class?
The difference is just, it's the same, but the small difference is the military structure. So the women that are in the Vanguard class, because the entire nation is a military, but the Vanguard class focuses more on that part, where we do securing of the women in the nation. That's all.
Praise be to Allah. And then on that as well, because I've seen in your bio in reference to your black belt training that you have, I would like, if you could, just describe your experience training and studying under Brother Student Assistant Supreme Captain Grandmaster Abdul Aziz, and if you have any memorable quotes that you may have from our dear brother that has helped you in your training.
Training under Grandmaster Abdul Aziz has been, I would say, one of the things that has happened to me in my life. As I mentioned before, it is the training of the nation, and him as well, because he is the national trainer, that has helped me greatly in my law enforcement career. One of the greatest things I would say that has impacted me in my life from Grandmaster is the saying, never give up, never surrender, eye to eye, heart to heart, us. So how I take that is never give up in life, no matter what's going on in life, no matter who, no matter what, there's going to be a who, there's going to be a what. Whatever, financial problems, death, no matter what happens in life, never give up. As women in martial arts, we have children and that type of responsibility. And sometimes the training, you may fall back on it because of that. But again, never give up, never surrender to our circumstances. That's even in our spiritual walk. As my husband mentioned earlier, there was a period in his life where he said that he wasn't active. So never surrender. What's that church song? We fall down, but we get up. Just keep getting up. If somebody throws you on the mat and you get up, keep getting up. And the eye to eye is no matter what we're going through, even as far as an attacker or just people that we encounter, look it in the eye to eye. I'm looking at you, you looking at me, the situation. Don't pretend like it isn't there, it doesn't exist, whether it be financial, whatever things we think are problems, just look it in the eye, and heart to heart, have the heart to challenge our fears. That's all. Thank you for that question.
All praises due to Allah. Thank you for the response as well. I have two more questions that I would like to ask you both, but one of them kind of speaks to what we have in the chat. So I want to bring that question up from Sister Cynthia. She says, Assalamu alaikum, family. We are taught trials purify. Can you talk about how trials have helped you and your family in Islam? And either one of you can start.
I would say trials, there's something that there's something in the Quran that talks about trials, but I wish I could pull it up, but it speaks about the trial in a particular way that I just can't recall at this moment. But one of the things that trials should do is draw us closer to Allah, because He is the one that we have to draw from to help us get through these trials. Trials should make us patient. And trials should help us to grow in love.
Well, brother, what popped in my what popped in my head when you asked the question is, I remember the minister was on Tabitha Smiley. And man, he lit it up. It was on one of those forums where Tavis had all of the leaders, the different leaders. And he was talking about this principle, what Martin Luther King said to Harry Belafonte, that the house was on fire. We need to be firemen. And the minister said, may Allah forgive me if I misquote his Messiah, but the minister said, no, I said, let it burn. And he went into the principle of it, though. He went into how nothing that fire touches remains the same. And then he went into how America needs to be burned, our educational system. So he went into it from a very spiritual standpoint where somebody couldn't say, oh, he's talking about burning down the country. No, you could look at it that way too, but not really, because of the way he did it was so beautiful and skillful from that spiritual standpoint. But that principle that nothing remains the same when fire touches it. And then it also reminds me of the scripture that out of the furnace of affliction, he chose us. So the fire purifies. It removes and it breaks down certain things and reveals certain things. So to me, the trial, and I've heard this saying on I like those medieval kind of TV shows and movies when I do watch it, like trial by fire, So it's something about going through those trials that at the time, of course, it hurts. Fire is not pleasant. It's pleasant to look at. And it's funny because some of us get pleasure by looking at the fire of the trials of others. You think it's funny or exciting or whatever. The sickness we have that allows us to find joy in seeing others suffer. But it's not fun when, as they say, the rabbit got the gun. So when I'm in the fire or you in the fire, it's not funny to us. But that pain and that breaking down, you look around, and if we make it through the trial, something is gone now, though. It burned off something. As they say, Jesus come as a thief in the night. You don't realize that a thief that's coming in the night, he's not a loud burglar. It's not a home invasion. He ain't kicking the door in. He's coming as a thief in the night. That suggests stealth. So when you wake up and you realize you might get dressed and then realize, oh, my watch is missing out the jewelry box. Well, that was subtle. So the fire, when it burns, or when the trial burns something away, you just one day find yourself in a situation where insecurity normally popped up, but now you feel secure, or were you afraid of a certain thing? Now that fear is gone. So that's how I would answer that I think when I look back, I thank Allah for those times that I've now realized, something had to be brought out of me. I'm talking about me personally, and you and others have experienced it personally. And now it's brought out and it's no longer a part of me, but it wasn't a comfortable process, but a necessary one on our evolution toward our eventual goal, which is the meeting with our Lord.
And when we come out of the trial, that may be the time when you reflect on it and you come to that realization, like, yes, as he said, it wasn't comfortable, but you may not even realize it until you're in another trial that you've actually grown, that some of that has burned off of you. So yeah.
All praise is due to Allah. When you spoke to how some of us could find joy in seeing other people go through particular trials, it made me think of what the minister said, and is quoted the viral clip of the minister of, whenever you see men fall, don't laugh, learn. And just understanding how that is so true. I believe, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to misquote the minister as well. But he said that same trial, basically the same trial that they gone through that we're laughing at, opens up the opportunity for us to fall as well. So just being careful not to fall into that same trap that they in based off not learning. So praise be to Allah, and thank you for those responses as well. So on the to dovetail on that question as well, when going through trials, what lectures do you go to for help or that spiritual boost that you may need to overcome a certain trial by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? And either one can answer.
She said
fear, faith, and truth.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. I would say one of the ones I find myself often going to, even if it's not trial, but just one of the ones when I want to get fired up, is The Woman and the Dragon. Yes, sir. That's what I would say.
All praises due to Allah. Fear, Faith, and Truth is the #1 quoted lecture on this program and platform as go-to or favorite. So praise be to Allah for that as well. And I had one other question as well, and this is more so for both of you all. What Brother Trevore, you spoke to, there were times in your particular journey where you did, you were inactive or fell out for a moment. But what would you encourage? And Sister Ladesha kind of spoke to it in reference to her experience with Brother Grandmaster, as far as not giving up. But what would you encourage a brother or sister that may not necessarily have fully committed themselves, or they do find themselves kind of going in and out, and on that valley of decision as far as committing their life? What encouragement would you give them as far as staying in that process to be able to get purified through that trial that they may be going through?
Say the last part again.
Like committing themselves to the process of, being in the nation, staying in that process to get themselves developed to be able to endure through trials as they continue to experience them. Because we know we're not going to escape trial. Even after we overcome one, there's going to be another one. But what encouragement would you give a brother or sister that may be in that straddling the fence side?
To stay the course? Is that what you're saying? To stay the course? To stay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What popped in my head is when they say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when you're doing a lecture, start at the end and then show how you got to that point. So I would say with any other race, if you will, or any other journey, start with the end in mind. And to keep, athletes have something they call visualization. I hope I'm saying that right. Visualization, where they visualize themselves winning, where they sit and they meditate on how they listening to their name. And the Bulls won the such and such championship. And they where they actually do it to the point where the mind and the body reacts as if they already won it, right? They see it. And so, but how can we see, first of all, what is the end goal? What is the goal? If I'm in the classroom of God, if I'm in the classroom of plumbers, what am I ascribing to be? If I'm in nursing school, what am I ascribing to be? If I'm taking classes at Harvard School of Law, I'm ascribing to be a lawyer. So the end goal and the end result of being in the classroom of God is to be a God. So what can I look at as an end result of that, or close to the end result of that process, to say, oh, this is what I got to keep in my mind and focus, because this is what I'm going to become. Well, we have that example in the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I want to be like them. And if we believers, we want to be where they are. Well, Jesus said, I'm going to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. That's the goal. So a lofty goal, there ain't no more lofty goal than to become one with Allah. So I would say by staying focused on Allah, His Christ, and His Messiah. That would be my answer.
And I don't know if I can even add to that. I don't want to say add, include. What came to my mind is the why. Why did we join the Nation of Islam in the first place? And sometimes we can lose sight of that. We can lose sight of it because maybe someone said something that we didn't like. Someone offended us. Someone did something to us. And we take that individual to be the reason why we stop coming, why we fall out, whatever you want to call it. But if we could just somehow bring that person back to their why, because they fell in love with Master Father Muhammad. They fell in love with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they fell in love with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And they wanted to help in this mission of saving our people. So that's what I would add to it.
All praise is due to Allah. And before I turn it back over to Brother West, we did have one other question in the chat here. I just wanted to briefly share, and then we can turn it over to Brother West for the station ID. What is the value of the MGT and FOI training as it relates to marriage?
You want to go?
We have these 7 units. And so those 7 units actually can help assist in marriage. How to keep house, how to take care of our husband, how to rear our children, sew, cook, and in general, how to act at home and how to act abroad. Our training units, I believe, were designed in regards to our relationship with Master Father Muhammad and in marriage as well, because the house is not just about the physical house. What about the house of God? How to keep this vessel, how to cook, how to sew. I remember one time when I was taking a sewing class, and this may sound very strange. I remember that I got so frustrated to the point of tears when I had to cut the pattern out. And I don't know if I related it to something in life. I had to. It was very difficult. Somehow in that it translated to me was just relationships with people, cutting the fabric, it having to be perfect. My relationship with, what is it in the study guide? Our relationship with Rabil Amin, that I wanted it to be perfect. And maybe at that time, it wasn't in my eyes. Not that it is now, but at that time, it really wasn't. And so all these things that we learn in our class, it's not just a physical thing. There's always a physical, there's always a spiritual principle behind it. And those things can help us in our relationship with our husband, our children, just relationships in general.
All praises due to Allah. Brother Trevore?
Well, it's called the National Center for the Re-Education and Retraining of the Black man and woman in North America. So that presupposes that our first education and our first training wasn't adequate. It wasn't correct. It wasn't right. It wasn't to produce what Allah intended to produce in men and women. It was, we were trained and educated in a way that would make us better tools and slaves for our oppressor, the slave master and his children. So to me, the FOI, in my humble judgment, is to remake man, who was made a nigger, a negro, a lazy man, an unproductive man, undisciplined man, unable to control his emotions, unable to control his environment. And it's to put us in a process, the end of which would make us into actual living gods. So that's the short answer of what I would say is the value, which I would call it invaluable class of the FOI, in making the man who would become so much like God that the woman of God could see God in this man who's becoming a God and assist him in that process. That's how I would answer that question.
All praises due to Allah. Thank you for those responses. I would like to now turn it back over to Brother West for our station ID and any final questions he has for you all.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You are listening to WHID-FM. Thank you for tuning in and spending your valuable time, because without you, there is no WHID-FM. If you have any suggestions, please email us at WHID1919@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe to WHID-FM on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Next week, our guest will be, inshallah, on July 21st, 2024, Brother Student Minister Abram from Muhammad Mosque number 78 in Jackson, Mississippi. So make sure you tune in for that wonderful show, of course. And my next question for you both, I wanted to know, when you're not teaching at the mosque or studying or helping your community, How do you relax and debrief?
How do I what?
Relax and regroup.
Relax and debrief.
Relax and debrief. Well,
Yes,
I
sir.
like to laugh. You know, I like to have a good, clean evening of fun. Just yesterday we were playing Uno and whatnot. So just normal things like that, movies and yeah, just normal relaxation. To music, I love music. Uh, yeah, just normal leisure activity.
Yeah. I like to skate.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Like skate. In addition to that, um, when it comes to movies, I've never considered myself of a television watcher, but every now and then I like to go to the movies by myself. It's just something relaxing about it.
Yes, ma'am. And my next question before I turn it back over to Brother Wesley, I wanted to ask you both, what has Islam done for you?
I guess I can go first. I would say that Islam has helped me to understand that something is actually wrong with me. Let me expand on that a little bit. As I had mentioned before, I was very, very heavy in church, to the point where um, I was a bit self-righteous, and I didn't see myself as doing anything wrong. Everybody else was doing something wrong besides Sister Ladesha. But when I came into the nation, I actually understood that there is absolutely something wrong with me, that I was not as developed as I thought I was, um, that I did not know the true and living God. Um, and it just has helped me to be able to have better relationships. It has helped me to really develop a love for women. I remember some years ago, this lady, as they say, she prophesied over my life. And I remember at that time, she said to me, "You're going to be speaking to women." And I remember at that time thinking, this lady doesn't even know. I don't even really like women or like to be around women that much. Um, but now I find myself in the Vanguard class, the MGT class, and I have absolutely fallen in love with our women, despite the many challenges that we may have. Um, it has helped me to become a good mother, in my opinion, um, a better wife. Inshallah, I'll be a better student.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And you, Brother Trevor.
Islam has given me peace. Islam has given me purpose, power. Islam has given me unspeakable joy. Islam, as taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, has not only opened my eyes, but is giving me a sense of time. Meaning, growing up in the church, I didn't know that the Jesus we were hollering and screaming and singing songs and people passing out and whatnot over, I didn't know that he was an actual, real live human being that we could meet and sit personally and listen to and have the privilege and the honor to follow, and that Allah would allow me to help this Jesus. So Islam has given me life and salvation. Islam has given me my wife. Islam has given me my businesses. So the scripture that pops in my mind is, I think it's Paul, who said, "In him I live, in him I move, and in him I have my very being." So without Islam, in particular, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I would be and have absolutely nothing.
I would agree, definitely, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Brother Wesley.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. We just have a couple more questions here, and then we're going to close out. Again, we appreciate you all's patience and time with us this evening. Definitely great responses and great dialogue that we've had thus far. One of the questions that we have is, what does the phrase Islam dignifies mean to you? And either one of you can respond.
Well, to me, it goes back to our 7 units, how to act at home and abroad. So, and then also in our lessons, it talks about civilizing. So those are the things that I think about. There are so many things that I did not know, and I'm still learning. As far as, again, how to act at home and abroad, that this teaching is so great that if we had to sit with kings and queens, if you will, that will be looked at in the same manner as that, and not savage.
Praise be to Allah. Brother Trevore.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
What does the phrase Islam dignifies mean to you?
Well, Islam dignifies by first, I believe, giving us the most essential knowledge that any member of the human family could have. And it's this knowledge that was stripped from us, denied to us, and deprived to us. They deprived us of this essential knowledge. And that's the knowledge of God, the knowledge of self, the knowledge of the enemy, of God and self, the knowledge of the time and what not should be done, but what must be done. So when a man doesn't know who he is, where he is in time and space, man don't know who his enemy is. Man don't know what to do. You can't really have dignity and self-respect if you don't even know yourself. So to me, Islam, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and exemplified by his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, it gives us back that sense of self-worth, that I am somebody, we are somebody, and not only are we somebody, we are the bodies that the great Mahdi Allah, who was prophesied to come and has come in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, we're so valuable to him that he said he would give nations for us, for our sake. I don't want to misquote the teachings, but when we realize that we're that valuable in his sight, I know he said, and I'm not quoting it perfect, but I know he said in the book, I think it's in Our Savior Has Arrived, that he said he would lay down and die himself for us. So when we realize the value that we have to the God and to the future of humanity, then yes, Islam dignifies.
And I'm glad that you clarified that by saying Islam as taught.
That's taught
by the Most
That's
Elijah
right.
Muhammad. That makes a difference.
Because he didn't come to make us into Arabs. No, he came to make us as the messenger when I forget which minister asked him, how do you know that the man you met was God Almighty? His answer was, because he made me all up into himself. All praises due to Allah. For the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you for those responses on that question as well. The next question, which really dovetails on what you just stated, Brother Trevore, is how would you explain God being a man to one who wasn't aware of such a statement?
How would I explain God being a man to one who wasn't aware of such a statement? Well, we'll start from the known. That's how we're taught to get to the unknown. You just march all through the Bible. I mean, we don't just in the book that they gave us, from him eating with Abraham to walking and talking with Moses as a man talks to his friend. And then one of my favorites is in Revelation when John said, I, John, saw the new Jerusalem come down from heaven, and God himself would be with them and be their God, and they shall see his face. So spirits and ghosts don't have faces. You know, I mean, there's so many that you can go into. At this point, it's almost like we're in 2024.
Right.
So, yes. You think about all of the material.
Right.
It's a material universe. What joy, I think Ishmael even said it earlier, would an immaterial being have in a material universe? Everything in his creation, I mean, the chairs we sitting on, if you look out in space, the sun, moon, and stars, these are physical entities, if you will.
Yeah.
Why would he be anything other than what his creation is?
That reminds me of, I even was saying to my husband one day, in addition to that, it's almost shocking that someone would still have a Caucasian Jesus picture up. It's like he said, we're in 2024. Like, this is the age of information technology.
Yeah.
So.
All praise is due to Allah. Yes, indeed. I share those sentiments as well, especially in reference to eating pork and things like that. 2024, as much information is out, you still eating it. That's definitely voluntary on your part. So praise be to Allah. Thank you for those responses. And then lastly, we have one question in the chat and one last question as well from our host, Brother Donald. How did your friends and family respond to your coming into the ranks?
I'll go first. Well, my family responded just fine. Like I said, my father became a registered Muslim in the 80s. So I think at that time, he couldn't, I was just this church girl, and that's all he figured I was going to be. So I thank Allah that before he passed, may Allah be pleased with him, that he got the opportunity to see his daughter join the Nation of Islam.
Praise be to Allah. Brother Trevore?
Yeah, I didn't get much opposition from my family. My family, for the large part, to my knowledge, love, respect, honor the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, as do, I would say, the majority of our people. Mm-hmm. One of the things the minister said on that tape that I was telling you about earlier, Project Exodus, was that he said in words that Allah has blessed him to make tens of thousands, if not millions of friends for us behind the door. So the friendship and if you think about it, even with the Million Man March, only Allah could put that kind of love and affection, affinity, if you will, for a man in the hearts of so many people. So that's the way I would answer that, brother.
All praise is due to Allah. And the last question we have, which is in the chat, what is the importance of the courtship process?
Mm-hmm. The importance of the courtship process is simply you have an opportunity to deal with one another on a spiritual, mental level versus the physical level. And it was set up for just that. the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there's a natural attraction of the male to the female. So that's easy, you know. That part, again, that part is easy. But to be able to know, or someone's thinking, what are they thinking? What do they believe? Amongst other things, that should be the focus. And please forgive me if I misquote the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But I remember he did a lecture one time, and he was talking about, you know, brother, you may say, hey, I got the most beautiful woman on the planet. And he said, you'll turn around and you'll see another.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see another. And so the physical part, he said, is going to fade away. But the spiritual part, God, is forever. And so that's the importance of that, the courtship process, to get to know the God in each other.
All praise is due to Allah, Brother Trevore.
Yeah, well, I look at the root word in courtship, you know, court. And I had the chance in my younger years to work in a courtroom. And, you know, on TV, sometimes it can be misleading with like on that movie, I think it's Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. It's emotional. Denzel in Philadelphia, when he's winning the case, he almost preaching, right? But the regular run-of-the-mill court is not very emotional like that. When you hear court, you dress up. It's official. You know, it's sober. It's a solemn almost. Because it suggests that very serious undertakings take place and very serious proceedings take place at the courthouse. You know, it's not a lot of noise. You're not on the phone. You have to be quiet because why? Why is it the courtroom so quiet? And why can't you be on your phone talking to your buddy? No. Because evidence is being presented that the jury may make a wise choice. But they don't want to miss anything. You got a court reporter taking copious, if you will, notes, just in case something is missed. The judge can say, did they say that was a black car or blue car? Run that back in the court report, or it was blue, because they're looking at the facts. You know, they might even object if a witness is giving opinion. It ain't about your opinion. Your Honor, I object. He's being speculative, or they're leading the witness. You can't lead the witness. If the defense attorney picks up that the prosecution is trying to deceive the witness, they're badgering the witness, Your Honor, he's being too mean. Why? Because they want, or they should want, the crooked is, you know what anyway, but they should want for the facts to be presented in a professional, clear, and concise manner. Why? So that a good decision can be reached, right?
That's right.
So in a criminal court, I was wondering why I was thinking about this earlier. Maybe this is why. In a criminal court, this burden of proof is on the state's attorney. They have to prove you guilty beyond shadow of a doubt. In the civil proceedings, it's less of a burden. They only have to have a preponderance of evidence, but all of it revolves around evidence. So in our court system, you courting a woman, then we come under examination. There's a part of the court proceedings where the state's attorney has to turn over evidence to the defense. I think they call it discovery. And that's what we're doing. She's discovering things about me. Well, what is your income level? What is his educational level? What is hers? What is this? What? All of the facts should come out in court. So that's what I would say, just off the top of my head. What's the importance of a courtship process? It's a process all geared toward us making the right decision. And The right decision in one particular case may be that these two don't come together. At the end of this court proceeding, enough evidence was presented that that says beyond any shadow of a doubt,
This is not the person for me.
This is not the person for me.
Yeah. Because it eliminates it being an emotional decision. You know, and the other things that the world does, again, it clouds your mind. You can't think properly. So that's why it's very important. I mean, you have to really ask the right questions. And that's why it's important to really know yourself, to know God, to know, as far as the sister, what does God want for you? I remember some years ago, I was in a courtship, and I hope it's okay to say this. I was in a courtship before, and I remember my father said to me, and sisters, make sure if your father's still alive, make sure your father talks to that brother. But my father said to me, he said, that is a good brother. And when he said that, I said, okay, Dad, you know, he approves. But then he paused and said, but he is not the brother for you. So, and my dad didn't make it from an emotional standpoint. He was an outside person looking in, because maybe he thought, okay, maybe she's not seeing clearly, even though I was seeing clearly as well. I just needed a little reinforcement at that time. And so our courtship process, I've never seen anything like it. Never. It is the best in the world as far as I'm concerned. It's from God. So how can it not be?
We can't hear you, brother. We can't hear you, brother.
That mute button is it's vicious sometimes. Praise be to Allah. Again, thank you both for all of your responses to all of the questions. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it, I'm sure, and I pray that those watching in the audience, I know I've gathered some things from what you all shared in inspiring words, and I pray that those that are watching this program and platform, that they gain something as well. So again, we thank you both for joining us on WHID-FM. And appreciate both of you all for your time. At this time, we're actually going to go to our announcements. Let me pull those up here. All right, praise be to Allah. All right, if you enjoyed this interview on What Has Islam Done for Me, and you would like to learn more about the Nation of Islam, please feel free to go to NOI.org/go study. Or if you would like to join on to the Nation of Islam as well, go to NOI.org/join, or you can call at 773-324-6000. Again, that number is 773-324-6000, and get more information on joining the Nation of Islam and accepting your own and be yourself. Final Call Radio. If you would like to listen to lecture clips from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and be able to listen to them on the go, please download the app and tune in on a 24/7 spiritual feeding of the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, on Final Call Radio. That's found on finalcallradio.com. Also, the best and boldest paper, the Final Call newspaper. If you see our brothers out, definitely get your copy of the Final Call newspaper. As you see on your screen, this is the cover of the most recent and latest edition of the Final Call Final Call newspaper. So get your copy, and you can get this as well at Final Call Radio. You also can get a digital version of the Final Call newspaper as well at digital.finalcall.com as well, and be able to get the national, international news and current events, as well as spiritual guidance by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And last and certainly not least, I Never Knew I Am All That, a book by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, illustrations by Sister Amina Lee. If you would like a book for your child to be able to bring that greatness out of them as well, definitely check out and get a copy of our dear brother Donald Muhammad's book, I never knew I'm all that. Again, the illustrations are done by Sister Amina Lee. Again, we thank everybody for joining What Has Islam Done for Me? Before we go into our Muhammad moment, of course, we want to thank everyone for joining on and watching the program today. We want to thank the entire staff of What Has Islam Done for Me, Brother West, Sister Janine, our dear host, Brother Donald Muhammad. And as he always reminds us, we see Brother Donald, but we also don't see the unseen help that he has that supports him in all that he does, his dear friend and life partner, his wife, Sister Cynthia Muhammad as well. So we thank all of those involved in making this platform into a success. And of course, we thank you for joining and watching What Has Islam Done for Me? We will now go into our Muhammad moment, which is from the lecture by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, We Are the Overcomers, Part 2. This was delivered at Muhammad University of Islam in Chicago, Illinois, on December 11th, 1991. You can get this lecture and many lectures from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at store.finalcall.com. So let's enjoy today's Muhammad moment.
So I think it's time for the winds to blow. And they are blowing, brother. I feel sorry for us, because very, very, very hard times are right at the door. If you pick up this Quran and learn to read it, man is in loss today. And we are losing because our faith, our belief, our worship is vain. We worship Allah conditionally. You do this for me, I do that for you. We take Allah like a summer or winter coat. We put it on when it's cold, we take it off when it's warm. We're not really true worshipers of God. We've become worshipers of illusions. And we're deceived by our own false impressions of ourselves. Lord, have mercy. I mean, I'm so sad when I think about us and conversations that I have with people who are sick and don't know they're sick. My God. We want to be great so bad that we don't know that greatness is only in God. And we don't want to go the right way to manifest greatness by surrendering completely to Him, that His greatness may shine through us because it's not ours. We want to be great without Him. Cool out, God. I don't need you for this. We're worshiping illusions. That's my man. Reverend so-and-so, brother so-and-so, leader so-and-so. No, brother. All of them passing away. Garvey came, Garvey gone. Malcolm came, Malcolm gone. Martin came, Martin gone. Dubois came, Dubois gone. Abraham came, Abraham gone. Noah came, Noah gone. Moses came, Moses gone. Jesus came, Jesus gone. God lives. God lives. So you who want to worship me, and go right ahead. But if you want to worship Allah, you're on the right road. I noticed you didn't say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came and Honorable Elijah Muhammad went. He did come and he did go, but yet he is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah, and with that we'll close out in prayer. Attention prayer. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahman Rahim. Malik Yawm Din. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Assalamu alaikum, family.